Good morning. Jim Farr, lead pastor at Emmanuel United Methodist Church in Noblesville, bringing you this week's Thoughts from the Far Side. This week I was asked a very interesting question. I was asked why, and by the way, it's sitting right here, why I'm going to teach on this book, How to Be an Anti-Racist. Why do we need to teach on that in the church? And at first, I'm kind of a gut reaction person, and so in my gut, I was very frustrated by the question. But then at the same time, I began to process it and did not respond in that kind of a way, but tried to be thoughtful. And I think it's something that the church has not dealt with well over the years. It is clear that God, our God, is a God for everyone. God did not select certain kind of people and place them over other people. God did not put certain people in charge and tell other people that they're not worthy of being in charge. And so, but it was a great question. It was a question that really was that visceral reaction to. But I think the church has ignored this issue for so long. I had a great discussion after that question with someone who told me that they went through some training on racism, and they talked about the fact that their son had played high school basketball and never described any of his teammates by color. And so she thought he didn't see color. And we hear that a lot, don't we? We hear white people who are trying to be helpful say they don't see color. And she learned in that training, and I will say it again today, that not seeing color is not a good thing. I think being open to everyone and treating everyone the same is a good thing. But if you fail to see the color of another person, if you fail to see a person that has been raised in the black culture of our country, then you fail to see the racism against them. You fail to see how they're singled out for so many things and how the negative impact is. You fail to see how the schools in the inner city have not been provided the same resources and teachers as those in the suburbs. You fail to see how they are arrested at a much higher rate than white people for the same crimes, and how their sentencing is much higher for the same crimes. And we fail to see all those things when we fail to see color. So why are we teaching about racism? Because it exists. Jim Wallace called it America's original sin, and there's a lot of truth in that, and we still have failed to deal with it. And what bothers me more is we failed to deal with it in the church. We failed to stand up and say, we are against this because our God is against treating anyone differently. We're all the same in God's eyes. God's the only one that doesn't see color. God doesn't see gender. God doesn't see any of those things. And those things that we've used to divide people, I would guess that God is not happy about. And here's what I say. Why do I get involved in fighting racism? Why have I done that since I was 16 years old? Because I thought it was wrong. And I noticed that, and I've continued to fight against racism. And now I became a Christian later in my life. And there are baptismal vows we use in our church. And they say this, that I'm going to fight oppression and resist evil in every way I can as part of my baptismal vows. So why do I teach against racism? Because I think my mortal soul depends on that. I think that there is no doubt that I am going to be at the end held accountable for this. I hope we can understand that. I know I'm saying this in a firm tone today, but what I really want to say is this. We need to learn, because then we can help others. We have no trouble identifying others in our own race that are struggling and helping them. But we need to figure out how and what we can do to break down this racism that exists in our culture. And as we will learn in the book, it's really impossible for me to be white and be a non-racist. I benefit from being white, from my education to where I live to what happens to me as I walk down the street or enter an airport or go somewhere else. But what I want to say about that is this, is that I can be an anti-racist, and that's what I'm going to be. I'm going to be anti-racist, and I'm inviting you to join me in that, and maybe you could learn a little more, and maybe in this class we could begin to see things just a little differently. I said last night in a small group that we disagree about so much, and we don't understand the other side very well. And here is the truth. We say that Black Lives Matter, and then certain people get upset about that. But the truth is, we also believe blue lives matter and white lives matter. But the actuality of it is, we don't need to be reminded of that. We need to be reminded that black lives matter because of what has happened to them with incarceration, with unrest, with education, and they're entitled to everything that I'm entitled to as a white person. I hope you gave you a little insight into how I think, but even more, I hope you'll come and join us as we start on April 11th in our Christian Formation Hour to talk about this, and maybe we can just get this much closer to owning our responsibility in this issue. And when we can do that, then maybe God can help us move forward and be the kind of people we were called to be. Thank you.